everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Two Show Day. My name is Diana Shabai Booker, and I am your host. I'm so excited that you are all here with me on our premiere episode. Since this is our first episode, I'll tell you a little bit about myself before we dive in. Full-time, I work in arts administration in a theater. I do a lot of paperwork and contracts and all that very boring but necessary things that keep the arts moving. By night, I love to fill my days stage managing at community theaters, and I've been doing that for about 7 years now. I think I've done over 20 productions at this point. I've dabbled a little bit in directing too, but I also love, when I'm not doing either of those things, when I'm not working or volunteering my time stage managing, I am probably viewing theater or art in some form or another. This is what I love to do. I love seeing theater. I love seeing classics and new works. I love seeing Broadway and national tours and regional professional theater and community theater and high school theater, movies about theater, movie musicals, other movies. This is what I love to do. I recently ended my first podcast called Theater Forks with my very good friend Amy Driscoll, but I wanted to keep making a podcast, so I decided to start Two Show Day because I wanted to do the things we were doing with Theater Forks. I wanted to continue to talk to my friends who are also in the arts or who are arts advocates or arts lovers, because what I think we need to do right now, what I am choosing to do with my anxiety, is throw it behind art and throw it behind those that I know and love, because I think we need each other right now, and I think we need more human connection. I want to talk to my friends far and wide. I was born and raised in Canada, but I currently live in upstate New York, so I have friends all over the place, which I am very, very lucky and very grateful to have. And so what I wanted to do is reach out to them and say, hey, what's your favorite piece of art? What gets you up in the morning? So I'm really excited that you are here, that you are listening to this podcast, and I hope that you find some of the joy and the fulfillment that talking to people about theater and about art gives me as well. So, without further ado, I am so excited to get into the interview with my very first guest. So, my first guest originally hails from Utica, New York. She is an acclaimed actor and performer. You may have seen her in such roles as Wendla in Spring Awakening, or the narrator in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, or Pamela in Head Over Heels. And right now she is in rehearsal to play Molly Astor in Peter and the Starcatcher. She also happens to be a good friend of mine and my coworker. So please welcome and enjoy listening to my interview with Hannah DeStefano. Hannah, thank you so much for being here with me on the very first episode of Two Show Day. I'm so honored that you said yes and that you're, willing to partake in my grand experiment. So thank you so much for being here. So tell me, how did you become a theater person? Do you remember the first show that you saw or that you did?
I became a theater person when I was born a middle child because, you know, I had that inner search for attention from day one. But in reality, it was me, how I started into most things, which was me following whatever my sister did. And
Okay.
my sister did a few shows when she was in high school. And so I remember my parents dragging us to see it. And it was Footloose at
Hmm.
a very small Catholic high school. So you can imagine how it was.
Perfect. The show about rebelling against the church. That's a great pick. Yeah.
Period. Period. Um, but I remember loving it in the moment. I thought it was like the best thing ever. I thought
Yeah.
it was so fun. I thought it was so interesting. And so then the next year I auditioned for the musical, and I remember it was like a whole big thing because I had to decide between splitting my time between basketball or musical theater, and so I
Mm-hmm.
had my Troy Bolton moment. Um,
You got to go your own way. Yeah.
and I did. Um, and my first show was Thoroughly Modern Millie, and I played
Okay.
Gloria. And I have been doing shows ever since then. I started just doing school shows, and then actually my second year I started doing community theater. And then my first community theater show was Legally Blonde, and I was oh God, what's the one who literally starts the show? I can't even remember. Margot.
Margot.
Yes.
Yeah. Dear L, he's a
Yeah.
lucky guy. That one. Yeah.
I like, can I cry? Yeah, that one.
I love
And
that.
yeah,
And
I've
you,
been
yeah.
more involved since then.
Yeah. You went to school for theater. Am I right about that?
Sorta. I
Or
mean,
you did theater in school?
yeah, I did a
Yeah.
ton of theater in school. My degree is so it's my college's equivalent to a theater major, my alum's equivalent to a theater major, because there's
Okay.
no theater major specifically, there's a theater minor. So there's a communications degree, and the communications degree has different concentrations. So like you could go into journalism, you can go into broadcast, you can go into video, you can go into like different aspects on how to hone in your
Yeah.
communications degree. So it's a communications degree with a concentration in theater.
Okay.
Um, so it was largely more tech-based, written stuff like dramaturgy or history and stuff. There were a few performance classes, and I did end up working as a staff member at the college I graduated from, and we'd
Okay.
brought on some actually like some amazing staff after I had graduated, and since I was a staff member, I could take classes. So I did get to take a bit more performance classes right after I graduated too.
Okay. Yeah, my education's pretty similar. Where I grew up, there were it's my degree is split between two colleges and universities. So I did 2 years at a university, just like sort of taking basic BA English communications things. And my second year, it was a joint program, or my second 2 years was at a technical school, very similar. So my diplomas in creative communications, but they had different concentrations as well: journalism, media production, public relations, and advertising. So I did PR, and thought I could do marketing. It turns out I'm the worst salesperson in the world, and it's the same thing my mom did. So I just wanted to be my mom when I grew up, and then very thankfully, Jean Leonard took me under her wing and said, "No, actually, you'd be good at this, and it's not marketing at all." So shout out Jean. But yeah,
Period.
so you and I met doing Spring Awakening last season at SLOC, and that was your first SLOC show, right?
Yes, that was my very first Slack show. So funny thing about Spring
Yeah.
Awakening is I had actually taken a job to work at Proctor's. Obviously, we worked together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was like, okay, so I move in the middle of October, which did end up getting pushed back to the ending of October, like a week before the rehearsals for Spring Awakening would have been happening.
Yeah.
So I literally commuted out an hour and a half to go to the auditions and come back home in the same night. And then also for callbacks too, because I was
Yeah.
like, oh hell no, I'm auditioning. I don't care if my house is in boxes still. Like that's my favorite show above all shows. So I I made it work, and thankfully also the rehearsal start day got pushed back so I could unpack.
Yeah, that it seems like it was kind of like a serendipitous show for you, because I know you had done it before, but that was ended up being your first of what, 3, 4 shows at SLOC now? You're in your third?
I I'm in my third,
You're in
yes.
your third, and you met your partner through that show
Mhm.
too. It's just like that seems very like you were definitely meant to be part of that show. Is that how it felt for you?
Yeah, it just felt like coming home. Also, like I had actually done shows in the area earlier when I was a teen, which I can talk more about later, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, I had one of my very best friends in the entire universe, my literal soul sister, Caitlin Effner. God bless Caitlin Effner. Um, um, she was a slot kid. She grew up doing all the youth
Okay.
shows there, and I remember hearing all the tea, all the drama about all these people, or I would hear like what was going on with Caitlin's experience through Slack, which was largely positive. Um, and I had actually seen one Slack show and did one of my senior college projects on it or not senior, it was like junior year. I of Adam's Family. So shout out to the cast and crew of Adam's Family. I did a whole PowerPoint presentation on you.
Oh my God.
I
I
have
need to see
still.
that PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, I have it.
Oh
I'll
my
show it to
God.
you. But so I had seen a show at Slock too, and I actually saw a show done at Slock that wasn't through Slock as well. So it was so cool getting to go and audition and like then doing the show there and now meeting all the people that I had low-key like heard about some of these people and I was like, oh my God, like placing a face and like actual person to the name.
Oh my God. I gotta be totally real with you. During the audition process, I like did not like you.
Oh,
because
period.
because you're like you're so clearly a Vendla, and I can't remember what your audition song was, but I feel like it was from the show,
It was
and
whispering.
it was Whispering. Okay, there we go. And you had a funny girl bag, so I was like, does this bitch think she's Leah Michelle? Like,
I didn't
and
even know how that came across.
thankfully my opinion was not taken into consideration, and I'm so happy to say I was wrong. And you're a wonderful person, and I'm very sure you can read, so there's that too. Uh, uh, but yeah, it's very funny to me. Just the friendship that we have cultivated since that moment. So that's
Also, I
wonderful.
will say the funny girl bag is stolen.
Yes,
So
you told me that later. You're like, I haven't even seen the show, and I was like, what? Oh my God.
literally. So I am not Leah Michelle. My bag is stolen. I didn't steal it.
It was just gifted. It just fell off
It
the
was,
back of a truck.
it was gifted fenced items.
Oh man. So, going into that, you are now in rehearsals for Peter and the Starcatcher at Slock.
Yeah.
I've never seen that show before. For others that might not be familiar, what's it about? It's unusually for Slock. It is a play with music as opposed to a musical. So, give us the what's up.
Okay, so before I say what it's about, it is a play with music, but our music director, James Alexander, has added like a 20-minute pre-show where we're doing like a crap load of sea shanties, like classic sea shanties to like some updated ones,
Wow.
and one that's like not really a sea shanty, but like TikTok loves it. Um, so it's gonna have a lot more music than it normally has. And then there's like music sprinkled throughout, and then there's two
Yeah.
really big songs which are super fun. So we are adding more music to it, which has been really great. But
Love that.
Peter and the Starcatcher is it's based on a book, but it's to really talk about it, it's like the precursor to Peter Pan. It's like the Peter Pan origin story. It's like how did
Okay.
Peter Pan come about and where did he get his name? Um, so it talks about it follows like two, I guess three main characters, which is Black Stash, which is obviously you would know, Captain Hook, and then Peter Pan and Molly Astor, who actually like canonically is set up as Wendy's mother at the very end of the
Okay.
show. Um, but this is her as a child. So she's a star catcher, which star catchers, they use their powers. Molly and her father use their powers to get the magic that's like left by stars onto Earth and keep it out of the hands of like tyrants
Okay.
and protect the world from the power that could be used in a negative way because the star stuff can make a person whatever they want to be depending upon what their heart wants them to be or like what they really want
Mm.
to be something horribly evil or it could be something that's like wonderful. And in the case of Peter, so this whole show is about there's two trunks and they're trying to keep the star stuff trunk away from the bad guys who want it, which are there are many bad guys. I won't even go into all these little subsets. You're just gonna have to come see. There's some great Italian mobster types that are wonderful. Shout out to Olivia. Shout out to Paige. Um, and it follows like Peter helps Molly on this mission too, and Peter actually accidentally falls into the star stuff, and his wish in his heart is just to get to be a regular boy for a long time. He
Mm.
just wants to be a boy for a while. So that's how he stays young for forever and it establishes like where the Lost Boys came from and like how Peter got his name through like his conversation with like Black Staff and stuff like that. So it's really
Okay.
just like an origin story for that classic tale.
Yeah. I love that. I'm so excited to see what Molly Waters, the director, and James come up with. I've seen like they're a couple and they work together all the time, and like I'm always so excited to see what they come up with at SLOC. James directed a couple of shows once at SLOC a few years ago, which is one of the loveliest productions, community professional, that I've ever seen, period. And they did Matilda together last season, and Molly's set design was just so inventive and wonderful. And I like, and I know they're doing Sweeney Todd at Fort Salem coming up. Is that this year? Yeah, that's this year too.
Yeah.
So that's going. They're all over the place. But you showed me some really cool sketches of the set for Peter and the Starcatcher too. How do you like? It seems pretty like intricate. So how do you rehearse in something like that? Do you have like it? Is it sort of built already, or what's the process been like?
So we only just recently moved into the theater after the closing of Falsettos.
Mm,
But Molly's father, who is our master carpenter for the show, has been hard at work, and a bunch of the production team and cast has been hard at work to get the bones up. So we do already have like the bones of it, but we don't have a lot of things that we're going to be able to like interact with or climb onto or get on top of platforms yet.
yeah.
So it has been a little bit difficult to try to account for what we're going to have without having it
Hmm.
all built yet, but it's quick work. And one thing I will say too is I love Molly is like incredibly imaginative.
Yeah.
She has comes up with like ideas that I would never have thought of in my life. Like her set design is absolutely brilliant. The way that it's so versatile, the way that it moves, the way that it's like deconstructed, it's like giving Jungle Gym like playground. It really like gives the childish part, like the childish imagination part, like all the room to play. And once we
Yeah.
have the full set, there's going to be so much playing that we get to do. It'll just add a whole nother layer to the choices we're able to make.
Yeah. I love that so much. So Peter and Starcatcher opens March 14th. Did I get
Yes.
that right? March 14th at SLOC. I was gonna say something else and I forgot. Oh, family friendly? Yes?
Yes, I would say it's family friendly. It's rated PG-13. There's
PG-13. Okay.
there's some jokes that are definitely geared more towards adults, but I wouldn't say that it's like wholly inappropriate or anything like that.
Perfect. I just, you hear Peter Pan, I just want to make sure, are we bringing the littles to this? But okay.
Yeah.
They should, yeah. 13.
They would, I
Perfect.
would check with the parents, but I mean, personally, I think it'd be okay.
Okay, so let's move into the meat of this podcast, the two show day. So we each want to talk about a show or something artistic that we love. I have prepared two because I don't know which one you are going to pick. So whatever you do, I will respond. Hannah, what is your show for two show day?
So, my show for two show day, everyone thought it would be Spring Awakening because it almost was. Because I never shut up about that show because it is so special. However, I'm gonna do Pippin, which I'm
Pippin.
not a pick me. Here's a shout out. Slock is having auditions for Pippin coming up. I'm not doing it to be a pick me. It has a very special place in my life. You'll hear about that very soon.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Talk to me about Pippin. Who wrote it? When did it premiere? What's all that background info?
Okay, so a quick rundown of the background. It was the books by Roger Harrison and Bob Fosse. Well, Bob Fosse did like the additions to the script. Music and lyrics by Stephen Schwartz. Originally directed and choreographed by Bob Fosse, and it originally premiered on 10/23 in 1972. Sorry, I'm just also picking at my notes. Notable productions that it's had is the 1972 original Broadway cast, obviously, and then the one that I am most partial and loving and familiar to is the 2013 Broadway revival, and then it's had like four U.S. tours. It's been on the West End. It's been all over.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that revival, that's the one I'm most familiar with too, with Patina Miller as the leading
Mhm.
player, which That's like one of the main reasons I wanted to see the Into the Woods revival was to see Patina
Mhm.
Miller, and I'll
Yeah.
never forget. So she played the witch in that production, and during I'm pretty sure it's Last Midnight. The witch has this incredible line where she says, "I'm not good, I'm not nice, I'm just right."
Mhm.
And I will never forget it. And no one batted an eye except for me, but she said, "I'm not good, I'm not knight, I'm just rice." And I just like looked around like, what the fuck did she just say? I'm just rice? And I talked to Jeremiah afterwards and I was like, she just said he was I just did you hear what she just said? And he was like, "Oh yeah, I thought there was a line about rice in there." And I was like, "Yeah, that's not Sondheim." She messed up. But no, that
Bullying.
production is amazing. I've watched several bootlegs of that revival. That was a big deal. Yeah.
Hmm. So, Patina Miller, if you're listening, Diana did hear that.
I did hear it and I still love you. So I love when things like that happen. It's like at the same production, when the Princes came out, rest in peace, King Gavin Creel,
Mhm.
and Joshua Henry, there was a fly on stage, and so they tried to keep avoiding it, and at one point Gavin Creel just went and just like swatted the fly. It was just wonderful. Yeah.
That type of thing makes me think of my first Broadway show that I saw. This is getting a little off track. My first Broadway show I saw was Hello Dolly, the revival
Mm-hmm.
with Bette Midler.
Yeah.
The whole set, the entire set didn't come out for the last like scene that she's supposed to be like sitting outside the shop and like it's
Oh my
emotional.
god.
And Bette Midler stands there, stands there, stands there, sits on the ground and goes, "The set didn't come out, okay?"
Wow. She's just like drop the act real quick. Oh my
Yes.
god.
And then during the song Hello Dolly, she's like, "Oh, I'm cheating. I'm gonna be better in the evening performance." She was like looking that during the show. I love
Wow.
her. Icon.
Your first Broadway show. Yeah, that's a high bar to top. Oh my
Yeah.
god. So talk about what's the basic plot of Pippin, which is that's a crazy question. What is the plot of Pippin?
Inception, show within a show.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's like two plots, but like the the plot is it's like a traveling theater troupe that's telling the story of Pippin and Charlemagne,
Hmm.
and basically Pippin is like a new actor that comes out, and he is for this troupe rather, and they cycle through their Pippins because at the end.
Yeah.
Um, so he comes out and he's like a fresh faced, full of naivete, looking for meaning in life and purpose. And it just follows him along as he like tries different things to discover what that is and how to find that. That's very, I can go into more detail.
I was just like, uh-huh, yes.
Like, and
Um,
more?
yes. Yeah, go into a little bit more because there's like some very famous songs that come out of this show. Corner of the Sky is like the number one male audition song of all time.
You open a Tenor's book and you're gonna find Corner of the Sky,
Corner
probably.
of the-
Well, Pippin, so it starts with Magic to Do, which is like already they start the show with a broken fourth wall, which is one thing that I absolutely love. I just
Yeah.
love, and a lot of productions, and the one that I did when I was younger, they start it with like assembling the show in front of you. It starts with the
Mm,
incredible like tuning sound of the orchestra, which is like so
yeah.
like a cacophony. Beautiful. Love that. And it goes right into Corner of the Sky, which is Pippin talking about how, like, fresh faced, I'm gonna search for meaning in my life and what's gonna be my claim, what's gonna be my legacy, what am I leaving behind?
Yeah.
He tries war, as most young men do. Like, I'm gonna go into the military.
Yeah.
Um, might not want to talk about that too much. He tries war, finds out that that's futile, and not what he wants to be doing. He tries uh, going to the country and just living on whatever he feels like doing, and an indulgent more type of
Hmm.
lifestyle. He tries a bunch of different sexual pursuits, and then it comes to Spread a Little Sunshine, which I just freaking love Pastrana. I don't know why. He's so unserious. Oh, you single mothers out there, or whatever the heck it is, I can't remember at this point in time. But like, I love that. And she helps gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss him into getting the easiest path to kill his own dad because it will help progress her and her own son, Pippin's half brother. And then it hits Morning Glow, which is right after Pippin kills his dad. Spoiler if you're going to see Ned's Song and you haven't seen it. Pippin stabs his dad, but then sings this absolutely freaking gorgeous choral number about how things are going to change, and this is definitely like what he needed to do. And then it goes into intermission. Well, actually, there's a false finale that occurs, which I love
Mm.
too. They try to rush to the end of the performance. They want the big finale, the glorious finale to happen, but it doesn't, and they're miffed about it, but they promise that it'll be great when we come back.
Yeah.
They come back and it starts with on the right track. The leading player's like, okay, come on, you're doing the right thing. Like, you're definitely almost there. You're gonna find it. But this Pippin, like some of their Pippins, I love how they act like Catherine is like the plan B. Catherine is the love interest to Pippin. And
Hmm.
they're like, all right, well, we're gonna have to bring Catherine out and do this other subplot and make the audience wait for the glorious finale because this guy needs a little extra convincing. So they bring in Catherine to try to show him how horrible and boring it is to live a peaceful, content, calm life. But it backfires a bit because their player who plays Catherine starts to get a little testy with them, starts to have real feelings for this one. Their Theo starts to like imprint on this Pippin. And Pippin starts to, like it until there's a little bit of poking and prodding where he is like, oh, actually, no, this is boring and I need to do more with my life. Um, and so he runs off after, that whole thing.
Hmm.
They get to the finale at this point, which is like Pippin is like literally about to kill himself, which is always hair raising on my arms.
Maybe we should
And
leave it there. Maybe we shouldn't give away
and we'll see
the
what happens
ending.
after
And we'll see what happens.
that.
Because the ending has changed over time, too. The revival had
Mhm.
kind of a different twist on the ending. So I don't know if, like, when you license Pippin, if you get a choice or everyone does the new ending. But if you watch, there's a pro shot version of, I don't know if it's the original cast, but it's definitely with,
It's the 1981 recording that's a little
yes.
funky.
Yeah, with Ben Vereen. So that one has the original ending, and then you have the revival with the new ending. So, but yeah, it's such an interesting show because it's like this medieval story at its heart, but then dressed up in circus, but then also dressed up in Bob Fosse. So it's
Hmm.
like sexy circus, medieval succession, like it's got some it's there's layers to this thing.
That's gonna be my LinkedIn bio.
Let's make shirts. We'll release merch.
Sexy medieval succession.
Incredible. So tell me about your personal connection to this show.
Oh, I have layers to why this show is so special for me. So,
Yeah.
as a general thing, I feel like I am always connected to, I feel like I present outwardly for the most part as a pretty like optimistic or happy person, except sometimes. Um, but I gravitate heavily to shows that are very sad or that have like a sense of like loneliness or like longing or yearning.
Mhm.
Um, there's reasons why that is, but this is not therapy. So,
You're not
uh,
paying me, so
yeah. Things like company, like I love like the quiet loneliness of
mm,
company, or like next to normal cabaret, spring awakening. Things like that, like those profoundly lonely, yearning, or sad shows.
yeah.
So off the first when I first heard of Pippin, um, when I first heard of Pippin, I remember assuming what it was about and being like, ugh, not interested, don't want to do it. And then I watched a bootleg and I was like, oh, I kind of really like this. So, oh, I had a weird story. So I'm from
Yeah.
originally from an hour and a half away.
Hmm.
And I had a friend of a friend's person who was a priest. Shout out to Father Paul.
Father Paul.
Literally, Father Paul. Father Paul, you saved my life. You really did. So he was like, I know about this great summer theater program that you can do in the 51A, and I am friends with somebody who manages the estate of this person who passed on, who has a house in Schenectady that you could stay in for free, that's in walking distance to Proctor's,
Oh
and
God.
all you have to do is like have a chaperone in the house and take care of like your groceries and stuff and tuition. And so like housing was going to be covered. I was going to get to have this opportunity, but I just had to like pay my own way.
Wow.
So me and my best friend AJ, we did this at the time we went to auditions or whatever for it. Um, so I remember auditioning and thinking, okay, well, there's 80 people here, and I'm this little girl from literally nowhere. All these kids have definitely been here before. And um, I got cast as Catherine. And it was also super serendipitous because the day that I found out I got Catherine, I was going to go see a professional production of it in my hometown.
Oh no
I got like
way.
a few hours before I was going to see the show. So it was like
Oh
super
my God.
exciting. Um, it was my very first show in the 518 in 2017 at 17 years old. And
Wow.
it's just so special to me. I got to share it with my best friend AJ, and then I met my literal best friend in the whole world, Caitlin Effner, who I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And then to be a little emotional about it, the director of that show, his name is Stephen Uhas. He passed away in 2023 of July. And he was just like such an incredible mentor for me. I'm gonna get misty. He he I remember feeling like this is theater. Like this is what I want to be doing with my whole life. Like this
Yeah.
show, like this is the type of theater that fulfills me. And working with this team that valued me, that I felt so valued by, and this director that I felt so like mentored and safe by, like it really like at that moment it clicked and I remember thinking I want to do this for the rest of my life. And
Wow.
so like Pippin is like that show for me, like the show that I decided like this needed to be like regardless I want to do it professionally. That's like an aspiration for me.
Hmm.
But that was the show that clicked for me like this has to be a part of my life for the rest of my life, and I owe that largely to Steven. So I like this show is forever connected to him for me too. So it's just super special to me.
Wow. That is, yeah, that is such a special show too. And yeah, when you have those sort of like aha moments of like, I didn't know, like maybe you knew that theater existed, but it's like, oh, this is for me. And like,
Mhm.
yeah, you never forget things like that. That's so
Yeah.
wonderful. Oh man.
And I remember doing theater before doing Pippin. Like I had done
Hmm.
some community productions. I had done my high school shows, but like that was just a moment where it was like everything aligned and I knew that like I was right where I had to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way about my sort of moment of getting into theater, and it's like almost embarrassing now, was the Les Mis movie, the recent one with Hugh Jackman and Russell Crowe, who can't sing, but
I love it
I
still.
I love it too. And it's like I
Yes.
had, seen things in my hometown before, the local theater does Beauty and the Beast and they do whatever, you take your kids to see that kind of thing and I saw all that, but seeing that movie was just like I don't know, it hit me at the right time. I
Mhm.
was I was also 17 and that's when I got the bug and I just have been obsessed ever since and now I have a Les Mis tattoo and it's a whole thing and like Les Mis is not my favorite show of all time, but it's my first favorite show. And
Mhm.
you always have a place in your heart for your first favorite show.
Yep.
Yeah. If someone has never heard of Pippin and they would like to get into Pippin, what do you recommend they start with? Is there a cast recording or a video recording that is widely accessible that you suggest?
I don't there is a bootleg of the 2013 Broadway revival on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what it's called, but it's definitely still up. And then the 2013 Broadway cast recording is my favorite because also I will say, not to hate when I just said it was one of my favorite shows in the world. In the 1972 one, there's like this weird thing where Catherine is like, oh, by the arch of his foot, and she's got like a weird foot thing going on. Like they got that in the revival, which I think was nice. Also, just like the quality, the recording quality is like a lot higher on
Yeah.
the revival version. So I would recommend listening to the revival and finding that 2013 bootleg that's on there.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, I recommend that's how I found the show too. That version and then I went backwards in time to compare. So yeah, I would also start with the more modern version. Sometimes that's what you have to do. I remember when this is not related to theater, but when the Star Wars movies, the most recent trilogy started to come out, and we had this discussion in college. Someone had never seen any of the Star Wars movies, and they were like, "Where do I start?" You've never seen any Star Wars movies. There you go. They were like, "Don't go back in time. Start with this one, because if you watch the old ones, they're going to look like complete hokey garbage," and they are. We just all have nostalgia for them if we saw them in childhood. It's like,
Yeah.
start now and go backwards, because otherwise it's like, why does everybody like this? Yeah.
I completely agree. That's like how I feel if you were to watch the 1981 bro shot of this. Like, God bless it's like Ben Vereen and Cheetah Rivera,
Yeah.
like legends. But like, it's a little freaky deaky when you watch it.
Yeah, it's
Like,
distracting. Yeah, get the story first with the modern
yeah,
version and then go back and appreciate the performances. But
yeah,
yeah, you're going to think it's wild otherwise. And it is
yeah,
wild. Like, and
yeah.
there's so much, like, you can do, like, the leading player doesn't have they're not, the character itself isn't like non-binary or gender fluid, but you can cast anybody in that role. And like, because it's a show within a show, like, you have so much freedom with what the actors look like and what they can do and what ages they are and things like that. So every production of Pippin can look completely different, which is
Mhm.
also really cool.
You could literally cast like a 20-year-old as Berth and Bertha, God,
Yeah.
and it would be fine because they're all just playing their parts.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Exactly. Nice. Very good pick. So I had a feeling you were going to pick a Fosse adjacent show. You talked about Pippin, you talked about Cabaret. So that's the direction I went to, but I didn't pick a show. I'm deviating to my formula on my very first episode.
Mhm.
I picked a movie. I picked All That Jazz, and I have props here that nobody can see, but I have my Criterion discs that I can reference. Have you ever seen this movie?
No, I haven't.
Amazing. Okay. So I'm talking about All That Jazz. The movie was written by Robert Allen Arthur and Bob Fosse. It was directed by Bob Fosse. The music is by Ralph Burns, and it premiered on December 20th, 1979. Notable cast members are Roy Scheider of Jaws fame. If you've only ever seen him in Jaws, you need to watch this. Leland Palmer, Anne Ranking, Ben Vereen, Jessica Lange, John Lithgow. Incredible. Notable recordings. It is part of the Criterion Collection. For people not familiar with the Criterion Collection, it's like a company that specializes in restoring and not protecting, conserving. Yeah, I don't know what the word is.
Yeah.
Restoring and distributing movies that they deem to be important, old movies and new movies, international movies, domestic movies. So that's available on there, and also if you've seen the FX miniseries Fosse Verdon, very similar. This is almost like a tie-in to that. So those are two places you can start. All That Jazz is basically Bob Fosse's life. And
Mhm.
it's so crazy to me. Like, one of my notes literally says, let's scroll down. My note says, can we just talk about the balls on Bob Fosse?
Oh my God,
Because
yeah.
this is just a very lightly fictionalized version of his life. So the main beats are, it's about Joe Gideon, who is the stand-in for Bob Fosse, who's just played by Roy Scheider. So he's a theater director and choreographer attempting to balance staging his latest Broadway musical, which is called NY/LA, so Chicago. And while he's editing a movie that he directed, which is called The Stand Up in All That Jazz. In real life, it's Lenny. He directed, which is a movie about Lenny Bruce that stars Dustin Hoffman. So Chicago and that is what's happening. So, just like Bob Fosse really was, he was an alcoholic, he was a workaholic, he chain smoked cigarettes. There are so many wonderful shots of him just smoking in the shower, and he's like the soggiest cigarette just like hanging out of his mouth. Um, like it's never out of his mouth in this movie. He's a womanizer, he's flirting with everybody. Every morning he begins his day, he plays this Vivaldi tape, and he puts a bunch of Visine in his eyes, and he drinks an Alka-Seltzer, and he looks in the mirror and he says, "It's showtime, folks." And that's how he starts his day. So he also has an ex-wife who's in his life. This is played by Leland Palmer. She's sort of the stand-in for Gwen Verdon, who, for those who are not familiar, Gwen Verdon was Bob Fosse's wife. She was his third wife, and they actually never got divorced. They weren't together all their lives, but they were just kind of one of those couples that never got divorced and were always in each other's lives. And I can't remember what show they met on, but she was sort of one of his muses. And if you look up videos of them dancing together, especially if you have never seen the Damn Yankees movie, they do this number called Who's Got the Pain? And it's just the two of them on stage, and she's dancing his choreography better than him. And it's just like, she's just so perfect, and you don't wonder why he choreographed for her, because they're just so perfect together. So her name is Audrey in the movie, her character's movie. So she's involved in putting on NYLA, just like Gwen Verdon was to Chicago in real life. He has a girlfriend named Kate Jagger, who is played by Anne Ranking, which is also wild to me because Anne Ranking stands in for Anne Ranking in this movie. This man cast his real-life mistress as his mistress in this movie. I cannot believe that. And he has a daughter in the movie named Michelle, who is a stand-in for his real-life daughter, Nicole, who she's still really involved in the legacy of her parents. She was an executive producer on Fosse Verdon, and she does a lot of work with preserving their legacy. So it kind of just goes through his life. He's stressed all the time. There's they have this really famous sort of cattle call audition opening scene that's been referenced a bunch of times. I think a chorus line did it on stage first, but All That Jazz put it in the movies first. So if you ever see that kind of thing, that's where this comes from. He has this scene where they are showing one of the numbers from NYLA to their producers, and it starts off very it's flirty, it's very classic Fosse, and the producers are like, "Oh, that's so great," and then they're like, "Hold on, we're not done yet," and then they turn off the lights and they bring out the smoke machine, and then it turns into literally they're having an orgy as part of the number. People are topless, it's crazy. And then he's like, "So what do you think?" They're like, "Oh, I guess we just lost the family audience." And I was like, is that what people thought Chicago looked like? It's crazy.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And another great moment is the girlfriend, Katie, and Michelle perform for Joe. They have this little dance number that they do to Everything Old's New Again. And Anne Ranking is wearing the highest pants I've ever seen. They must come up to here, and she has this little tie shirt, and it makes me wish I was that shape because her legs look 1,000 miles long. And again, you just you don't wonder why he fell in love with her, because she's so magic in this movie. So there are numbers in here that are part of the movie, when they go to the producers or when this scene, but there are also fantasy numbers too that he's hallucinating, or that it's there's this plot line where he's sort of talking to this angel throughout the movie who is played by Jessica Lange, and it's he's talking to her about his mother and his childhood, but also sort of his conscience, this is why I womanized, or this is why I do this and that. And so there's mixed within fantasy and reality, which I think some of the best musicals pull from that, because then you're not tied to, I don't want to say the word reality again. Oh, it's the suspension of disbelief. It's it's all fantasy. I don't know what's real. So it's all out the window. And I love that. So, Joe Gideon has some heart problems. He has an attack of angina, and he has to go to the hospital. He's literally smoking and drinking in the hospital, and the doctor says, "Please stop doing
Bro.
this." Literally. Um, and then, so he continues to deteriorate, and then he sees a negative review for this movie that's coming out, and he has a massive coronary event, and it goes on from there. So again, just to not only write a lightly fictionalized version of your own life, cast your own mistress as your mistress, and then the main message of the movie is, this life will kill me if I keep it up. And then it fucking did. Like, Bob Fosse died at age 60. He had a heart attack. He on the streets. I read this recently because I wanted to get it right. He and Gwen Verdon were going to see a production of Sweet Charity in Washington D.C. and he had a heart attack on the street in her arms. And that's how he died.
God.
I know. And it was, she was the one to. She died in 2000. So she was, even though they weren't like, they were married, legally married, but they weren't together. He had another long-term girlfriend at the time. She was the one to like scatter his ashes, and like they were just so connected that whole time. So I had not seen this movie until last year, and I watch a lot of movies. Like, I've watched over 600 individual movies in the last 2 years. So I try not to be I know, I'm crazy. This is what I do with my free time. I don't say it to be like, oh, I watch 300 movies a year, but it's like, I know, I try not to be that like, oh my God, you've never seen this movie person, because it's like, there's a lot of reasons someone hasn't seen a movie. But I haven't seen it till last year. And then I watched it 3 times, including twice within 18 hours of each other the first time I watched it, because I just became immediately obsessed. It's in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. And I try not to do that. I try not to be like, this, I've just watched this and it's my favorite. But I just can't describe like how magic it was. It's like, it's show business, it's a musical, it's a fantasy, it's a biography, it's a warning. And I really think Fosse is probably my favorite choreographer. His moves are just so singular, you know, instantly if it's Fosse. Yeah. And like even in the Chicago revival, which is like the version most people are famous for, like when Chicago first came out in 1970, whatever, it closed within a few years. It was really overshadowed by a chorus line. And so the version we know and love is the revival, which is 97, I want to say. And most of that choreo was done by Anne Ranking in the style of Fosse, except for Hot Honey Rag, which is his original choreography. And so when it was at Proctor's last year, I'd seen it. This is the first time seeing it. The choreography is great, but there's something about Hot Honey Rag that is like, they're just gliding when they're doing that. And it's like, yeah, that's the real magic right there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my recommendation this week, is All That Jazz. Did FosseFest this week.
You sold me on it. I'm gonna watch it.
Yes, please. You can borrow my DVD if you want. It's so like, yeah, I've just talked about it for 20 minutes, but it's really wonderful. I think if anyone is interested in show business or musicals or Fosse or anything whatsoever. Fosse did a couple of movies. Cabaret, of course, he won the Oscar for Best Director for Cabaret. And there's another one after All That Jazz that is not coming to me right now. The title's not coming to me, but this is it. There's like so many references that other movies have made, and the music is really good, and it's just, yeah, it's a wonderful watch.
This might be a stupid question, but did he do anything with actually, never mind. He would have probably been dead. So he didn't.
What? No, you have to ask me. What was it?
The Chicago movie, right? That came out after he would have been
Oh,
dead.
yeah, that was like 2002 or 3.
I don't know when it was.
No. Man died in 1987. Yeah. Anne Ranking probably did. Anne Ranking just died a couple of years ago. So she was probably involved in that. And she did a lot of work with carrying on his legacy too, which is so amazing to me that like, this guy on paper was such an asshole, right? He's an amphetamine addict. He was a hard drinker, cheated on every man or every woman he was ever with. And yet these two women did so much to carry on his legacy and to talk about him and to preserve his work. And it was just like, man, I would, if that was me, I would do everything. I would talk nothing but shit the whole time. Right?
Mhm.
Like,
What about these musical theater boys? They just be getting you.
oh my God. I saw, if no one follows the Broadway Beat on Instagram or Facebook, it's like The Onion, but for musicals. And they had some headline recently about like, no more DEI hires means trouble for straight men in musical theater. And it's like, that's real.
That's so real. That's so real. I
Yeah.
thought you were gonna bring up the Fun Home one.
Oh my God, I love the Fun Home one. After a breakup, Allison is switching her major from Joan to go back to communications.
I love that.
Yeah, that account is excellent. And there's, oh, what's that other one? I don't remember. There's another account that's like does Broadway memes. Oh, I think it's called The Theater Lovers. Yeah, the _ theater _ lovers. Like they did one of, you know, how Beyonce reacting to winning Best Country Album is like a meme now where she looks all shocked. She's like,
Yeah.
So they did one where it says the Tony Award goes to Avenue Q, and then it's Beyonce doing that. There's Pikachu in handcuffs when the FBI discovers my slime tutorial collection.
Oh my God,
That's
real.
a good one. I'm showing you memes that nobody else can see right now. I'm gonna edit all this out. Okay.
Honestly, slime tutorials are like it's like the library for us because theater tickets for Broadway are not accessible. So
No.
that's where we go to see them. I'm not saying I've ever bootlegged. I'm not saying I would pay anyone to bootleg, but I might
Of course
bootleg.
not. I definitely didn't in my college years have a bootleg trading website where I would reach out to other people and we would trade one-to-one audio or video recordings. I definitely don't have like several hundred gigabytes of bootlegs on a hard drive somewhere. No.
Hey.
Listen, that's where you start, and that's how you get knowledge. People always ask me, how do I know so much? Illegal bootlegs. That's how I know so much.
Period.
Now I have a job, and now I go see things, but most of my knowledge comes from that and from local productions. Comes from working on it or volunteering somewhere where you can go see things for free. And there are ways to see theater for, you know, cheap or free for sure, but a lot of it is local, and it doesn't have to be professional to be quality. So, I'm trying to see 50 shows this year total. I saw 44 last year, so just trying to go out there and see as much as I can and gain more knowledge. So
Yeah, that's awesome, honestly. That's like with
yeah.
I don't know who it was posted it. What was Patrick White's record?
Oh my God, he did like 290 or something last year. I do not understand where he gets this extra day of the week that he has and the rest of us don't somehow. He does that. He runs his own theater company. He also has a theater podcast. I don't
Dang.
understand, but I love it. I love him. I love all that he does for this community and to lift others up. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Shout out.
Shout out Patrick White. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It was wonderful to have you. Everyone go see Peter at the Starcatcher at SLOC starting March 14th. You can get your tickets now or sign up to volunteer if you don't have the funds to buy tickets. They need volunteers every night. And it's real easy to show people to their seats. So get involved.
Yes, please. You'll love it, and we'll sing some sea shanties for you.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't that wonderful? Hannah is so full of light and kindness and warmth, and she makes friends everywhere she goes, and I feel so lucky to have her in our community and in my life personally. And I want to thank her so much for coming onto this podcast when I had no episodes recorded, no example to give her, and she just said yes right away and she went with it, and I am so grateful to her. Thank you so much, Hannah. So that's it. This is 2-Show Day. I hope you liked it. I have more coming up in the works. If you would like to stay in touch with me or to find out more about 2-Show Day, you can find us on social media. We are on Facebook and Instagram. You can look up 2-Show Day Podcast. on social media. We also have a link tree, which will give you the links to everything you need to know about us. So that URL is linktr.ee/2showday, the word to show day. And there you will find where you can listen to us, which is pretty much anywhere you would regularly get podcasts. You can see our social media pages. You can send me an email. You can sign up for our mailing list. And you can also see, if you have this app called Mezzanine, you can see my Mezzanine profile. And it's kind of like Letterboxd for theater. You can log things that you're going to and things you'd like to see. So if you want to catch up and see everything that I have on my theater schedule, you can look up Mezzanine. Other than that, thank you so much for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Two Show Day is created and hosted by Diana Shabai Booker. It is executive produced by Diana and is produced and edited by Michael McCord. You can contact Two Show Day at twoshow.daypodcast@gmail.com and find all our socials on Linktree at linktr.ee/2showday. Two Show Day is independently owned by Diana Shabai Booker. It is part of the Collaborative Studios network. All opinions expressed herein are not necessarily the opinions of Collaborative Studios, Proctor's Collaborative, or any of its affiliates or partners. If you're interested in becoming a part of Collaborative Studios, you can reach us at collaborativestudios@proctors.org.